Good day, good day, good day, and hope you're enjoying your morning. I got to do a couple of sound checks here, as it would be the case when you get started doing a live. All of a sudden, your mic might not work, the volume won't turn up, and all types of other mishaps will occur, of course, when you start your live. Anyway, folks, it's so good to see that you're here. I'm glad that whoever could make it in made it in. Welcome to a quick jump in of All for Success with an X. And the X means that, you know what, I might mention something else other than life and times of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. But even if I do, we'll just carry on and somehow work why it relates. Okay? So I hope you enjoy that. Now, here, this channel, attention everyone, is a Sussex friendly channel. It's Sussex friendly because I look at the Duke and Duchess of Sussex through the eyes of a mother, right? I feel myself as a voice very much akin to Doria, Miss Doria, who is Megan's mom. I see myself very much similar in that role that when you have adult children, you want the best for them, you want to protect them, and you definitely are looking out for their interest. And you know, as a mother of adult children, children, period, but adult children, you realize that the world is as ugly as it was when you were bringing them up, and that it is going to stay ugly, and that you must try your best to protect and arm your children from the world that is ugly. No matter how much people tell you that it isn't. But that does not mean that you need to despair, okay? You can have a tough time, have a tough day, but despair is not allowed, okay? Now, I hope you enjoy looking at the scene here that I had thrown up on the post because it reminded me so much of what it looks like right this moment outside of my windows. We had a snowstorm slash ice storm come through. And I want to let you know that in this region, which is the middle of the wonderful United States of America, we got clouds of snow. A little bit of ice rain is still falling where I am. And it bizarrely reminded me of poor Megan being pushed down the wonderful slopes in Washington or Canada at the time of the Invictus Games there, because outside my window looks pretty much like that. So instead of going down the slopes at a breakneck speed like she was tricked into doing by her wonderful husband, who loves adrenaline, I prefer the other wonderful picture, which is making yourself a warm cup of coffee and sitting by the window and looking outside. So I hope you guys get to do that. And yes, we are paying for a lot of this weather with in many cases, people are losing power. So while we're on this live chat, don't be surprised if something cuts off or everything shuts down. It would not surprise me. I live in that kind of area. So, in the meantime, however, sit back, enjoy, get your coffee. And yes, if I'm a little bit late today, that means you should already be at Sunday school, okay, if you were going. And of course, if you're not, sit back and listen. Do some exercises in your house if you can, because you know me, I'm always going to give you an exercise plug and encouragement. And oh my gosh, as I'm sitting in front of my window, I see big chunks, big drops of ice falling down. So that means inside, you're going to have to do your stretching, do your walking. Me, I've been hot footing it up the stairs, trying to work out a little bit. up and down the stairs. So you do the same. So for guys and girls, let me know in the chat if you can. I appreciate it if you'll do a thumbs up. Let us know you're coming in and joining in. Hit the thumbs up button. You know what? It really helps as I'm trying to build my channel. I am really one of the worst people doing all the things that YouTube pushes you to do to build your channel. So you know what? Any of you out there who are have more expertise and you have tips, please drop them in the chat and let me know some tips and tricks and things that I can do that can add more views to my channel. I do know that I need to do more shorts. I do know that. And I keep promising that I'm going to do it. I'm just not quite sure the flavor of how to drop the little shorts off. I keep trying to come up with ideas. But if you guys have any ideas or wants or preferences, let me know. That'll give me an idea of which way to work forward. All right. Now, that being said, what are we talking about this week? And I promise I'm not going to keep you forever. I say that. I hope you believe it. Now, what does that mean? What's happening in the world of the Duke and Duchess of Success? You know, we know that no matter what is going on in their lives, good, bad, or indifferent, they're simply going to stay the course. We know that, and we know why they do that. And it is important that they keep definitely demonstrating to all of us to do that. Stay the course. Whatever you've got your eye on and whatever you're working on, continue to move step by step in that direction. Try your best not to get sidetracked. Definitely try your best not to be derailed. Okay? You know, we always use train analogies. All right? So we know that they pretty much are going to try their best to stay the course. And I always like to sometimes go over the thoughts and mindsets of the royal family. I mean, for early in the 20th century, I just had this little note here. This is really for myself, is that they had a way of being reverenced, right? And so we definitely want to maintain this type of mentality that is going on in the royal family and the UK royal work. Now, of course, during World War II, they knew they had to make some small adjustments, of course, because life in those days was becoming very, very strange, very tenuous, you would say. And people were actually noticing what it meant to be a royal. What was the whole invention of royalty? What was it about? And so people had these type of mentalities and these type of processes that they wanted to instill in the royal family / firm. And so this idea, never complain, never explain. It's an interesting quote. It's attributed to this gentleman Disraeli, and he was a person who was living in the 1800s. And it was one of those things that he, making that statement, was sort of, you know how a person who works in an advertising agency, that type of mentality, he was basically giving an ad campaign, if you will, for the royal firm or the royal entities to operate by. That's the concept, never complain, never explain. So why are we talking about that today, or why did that come back to mind for me today? Well, as you all know, the entities that are the subject of Prince Harry's court case, those entities are the media in the UK, the media machine, for example, the mass media machine in the UK. Now, Here's what's phenomenal. It's like, you know how sometimes something is right in front of your face? Something is right in front of you, but you may or may not pay attention to what it actually is or is saying, right? The mass media operation is one that, without any doubt, people understand it is giving information to as many people in the world that it can. And the people providing you that information may have a point of view they would like you to have versus perhaps the point of view that you have just looking at a particular situation. I mean, that is what mass media is all about. It is only existing to provide information, but through the view of how mass media would like for you to think about it, right? Think about a conflict, for example, between two preschool kids. You know, she took my pencil, but he took my paper, right? The two little toddlers are arguing over, she took my pencil, but he took my paper. She took my pencil first, but he took my paper, you know. So when you tell that story of this conflict between these two toddlers, how are you going to frame it? Which aggrieved toddler is in the right space? Which aggrieved toddler is correct? Who was being treated fair or unfairly? Do you understand the perspective of either party? And this is the thing about the work of the media overall. It is very difficult to just put out facts and stories without having a perspective or an attitude about it. It's very difficult. Now, isn't it? So this is Prince Harry's court case. This is what's going on in the realm of the court case. It is the mentality that is fraught with who is right, who is wrong, who did what to whom first. Now, here's the thing that is never discussed in UK tabloid media spaces. How would Harry, at any point, have been responsible for the negative things that occurred due to the press coverage? Right? Like, you would think that people all around the world would easily get that point. But I would love to direct your attention to sometimes of comments, and I'll just mention them. I was listening to a comment on LBC, which is a UK news kind of channel, and this caller called in on the show to discuss how he was tired of hearing about Harry and Meghan. And he's just tired of hearing about what they may be dealing with. After all, oh my gosh, he's so privileged, right? This is a common phrase repeated in the UK. It's a common phrase and a common mantra. And guess who put that phrase out there? The UK media. So now you have Joe Citizen who calls in and says, I'm just tired of Harry and Meghan, and this is his complaint. But he never asks and he never analyzes. Why is he tired of Harry and Meghan? Like, did Harry and Meghan call him up every weekend and say, hey man, what you doing? Or, you know, does Harry and Meghan stop by his house every day and throw eggs at his front door? Right? Does Harry and Meghan swing by his street and pose up outside and say, hey, come and listen to what we have to tell you today? You know, like, what does he mean he's tired of Harry and Meghan? And this is what I mean. Joe Citizen will say things like this but they never analyze you saying. No, what you're actually tired of are the stories and the media coverage and the negative publicity about Harry and Meghan. That is what you're tired of. And Harry and Meghan are not putting that out for you. Harry and Meghan are not doing that. In other words, they're not putting out all the negative media and slapping themselves on the front page of all the media tab. They are not doing that. What he should have said, if he had analyzed what he was thinking about, even for a few moments, what he should have said is, I am tired of the UK media's coverage of Harry and Meghan. That is what he should have said. That is what he should have observed. But did he? No. His ownness of the problem was placed on the people being victimized by the UK media and tabloids. The onus of his fatigue was placed on Harry and Meghan, whom he probably has never met, never seen, never talked to, right? But they cannot even wrap their heads around how ridiculously illogical they sound, because they have been fully inundated and filled with what the UK media propaganda mass media machine has pumped into their veins. They can't even rationally explain what is causing them the anxiety that they feel. But they think it's Harry and Meghan. They did none of this, right? Interesting. But I want you to think about that. That's one of those things that I love to point out, especially when I'm being that agitator in different people's comment sections. I always say stuff like that in the comment sections. When I have nothing to do, from time to time, I will comment in people's feeds when they say something negative about Harry and Meghan. I kind of remind them that you are just simply illogical. You're not using your brain properly. But and that is how they did. So anyway, as you all probably have been paying attention and following, especially if they're super squatties. I know the super squatties who run by my channel. I know you're definitely down deep in what was happening in the court case. So it has started. It started to roll along. They did push Harry's time for commentary ahead. They had him chatting a little bit earlier than he had expected to, right? And so he had an opportunity to plead his case and express his thoughts in how information was gathered and why he felt information was gathered illegally. So take a moment and let's go over a couple of his thoughts. All right, so just hang on a second. Let me get my thoughts together. Stand by 1 second. All right, while I do this, I'm going to look for something here. Let me see. I'm thinking, okay. Okay, so one of the key things that was mentioned, and everyone everywhere was talking about it, is the fact that at one point in this discussion, the opposing counsel made an inquiry as to whether or not Harry may have been talking about what he was doing or just casually having conversation with his friends. However, the counsel suggested that his friends also included various names in the media. In other words, people who worked as royal royal correspondents, and I'll give you some of the names, and you all are probably familiar with them. The Richard Edens, that type of character, the folks that show up on Palace Confidential. I think her name is Rebecca, is one of them as well, and I don't know why her name eludes me. It's probably because I'm trying to remember it. But the people who were royal correspondents, for example, like an Omid Scobie, right, who worked as a royal correspondent for a short time. So the impression was that that Harry might have been speaking about what he was doing privately around his friends, and that these characters, who were also royal correspondents, would have been considered his friends. And one of the most important statements, which of course made headlines all over, is that Harry casually responded with, "No, these are not my friends." Basically, I've never thought of these royal correspondents or media personalities as friends. Even though these people will introduce themselves on TV shows and talk shows often by saying, "I was introduced to him at a party," or "we met at some particular location. I've known him for years, I've followed his career for years." And they talk about him like they have a casually positive relationship with Harry. But they're not aware that Harry's opinion of their relationship was basically like employer-employee and very distant. They thought they were somehow considered friends. Meanwhile, at the same time, anytime that something was happening in his life, their ultimate goal was to exploit it, to merely use whatever was happening in his life at any particular time as a way to earn additional money. They were simply there to exploit him. And what is amazing is he too understood he was being exploited, right? And they're shocked and in awe that to find out that he never really liked that. So now we're going on into the second phases. And Harry, of course, remained as stoic as possible, but he was very adamant to explain that the UK media, the tabloid media, didn't do anything except make Meghan's life miserable. They did everything they could to destroy, whether it was her trust or whether it was just her interest in working in public, but they did everything to make any appearance that she made a living misery, right? Or to treat her as if she shouldn't want to be in public, right? So, think about that. But that is the world that they had people going into. But somehow this is what the UK media is trying to paint. Somehow the UK tabloid media and all of those that support the royal firm and the monarchy for putting him in that type of position, allowing him to be fed upon in that position, simply because it worked to their advantage. Right? It's like the actual exposure in one particular case, that even when Harry was a teenager struggling with potential depression / anxiety, and maybe he used, I'm going to say marijuana or something to that effect. I don't know if he had any casual use of drugs at all. But they took that situation and exploited it to try and place King Charles in a position of caring father, looking out for his son, and arranging him a stay in rehab. But what was more or less probably the reality? The reality was probably more, me and my new girlfriend, we want a life of our own, And we don't have time to be bothered with these kids. Now, the older boy is more lenient to whatever plan includes his progress. And so if the other prince is a problem or if he's in the way, sure, let's exploit him so that we look good. Because when you get right down to it, and there is, I would say, anecdotal evidence based on, let's say, movie scripts or people who are responding to various conversations, you get the impression that William, as an older teen boy, was fairly embarrassed by the fact that his mother's life was public and the fact that she was with another man and living a life, being with this other gentleman and them being a romantic item. This was embarrassing to him, and I can imagine that it would be. Even though he was the future king, he was probably a little bit humiliated and blamed, right? Would, of course, blame his mother for any negative feelings from his friends or any teasing from his friends about the particular situation. I mean, think about it. We can all just pretty much extrapolate that. So he probably had a little more distance from her in the first place. At least that is my casual thought. But anyway, as soon as this wonderful court case has been in progress and he pulled his part and he did his thing, boom, within a matter of moments, he ended up back on this side of the planet. Where? At Sundance. So while we think about that for a moment, folks, let me see who's here in the chat. Let's see what you guys got to say. And I hope you all are enjoying yourselves chatting. Let's see who's here. Look at that. Oh, Joyce Anderson, thank you so much for being here. I see that you said good morning up there up top. Thank you when you came. You came in early. I am so glad. Look at that. Joyce Anderson, you welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes, snowy Sunday morning to all of us. It is wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. You don't know what it means to feel that you guys every now and then see me as someone to support. I appreciate it so much. It makes me so happy. I want to cry. And you said that as one of your tips, you said that I could show up on Barron's channel and say hi. Oh, he'll promote my channel. You know, I've been over to Barron's channel quite often, and usually, this is terrible, I'll go in and listen in. And then I do the opposite of what I ask people to do here. I'm like, I forget to click the thumbs up. And then sometimes I miss the live and I have to catch it on replay. And it's like, what is going on with it? Why am I always missing out? But I do enjoy Barron's channel so, so much. He is so thorough. It's amazing. And he is so funny. He cracks me up. And I didn't, at first, I went over there a long, long time ago. And that was just when I was starting out. And I was saying, oh, yeah, I'm trying to get this channel going. But I felt so, I'm going to tell you the truth. I feel like I'm so bad at this. I feel like I'm so bad at this that I sort of don't want to, it's like I don't want to bother a real YouTube podcaster with me and my whinings because he's so phenomenal at it. I mean, he's got such a following. It's fantastic. And I'm sitting here thinking, what do I need to do? But look at how consistent he is. Oh, I could just praise him forever. He is so consistent. His material is so well researched, and he is so, what do you call it, detail oriented. I mean, he will point out certain details that I would never ever think about. So yes, I love Barron's channel. I really do. But I feel right now I'll go over and check it out. But at the moment, I'm just too intimidated to go over and say, hey, I got this podcast. He'll probably say, get out of my channel. Get off my feed. But I might have to do that. Yes, ma'am. That's a great suggestion. You are so right. So let's see what else Joyce is telling me. She said Joe's citizen is disregarding that he is providing his money to feeding the royal family. The purpose is to continue living a high level lifestyle off the poor toothless subjects in the UK. Well, of course. You know, isn't this beautiful? The royal concept. I mean, and I love to, some people laugh at me because they know I'll go way too deep. Keen, keen for concepts. Hello and welcome to the channel 623. Appreciate your being here as well. And thank you so much for your continued support. You don't know what it means. But the royal family, that whole monarchy, the kingdoms, the worshiping of gods, being the subject, worshiping your gods, having the monarchy, which is, blessed by God, it's divine and all of that, the step down, the children of the gods, and so forth. Mankind really does struggle with, I guess, his actual reality slash purpose, right? Mankind really does struggle in that space of, why am I here? What am I really? Why am I ruled over? What is that about, that there is no existence in this environment where you aren't in some form or fashion, even if it's soft or even if it's harsh, but there is an element of being ruled over, you know? Mankind struggles with this concept. And many of the folks who are awake to how things are structured, they may see more of a reason to fall into this pattern. Worship your uppers, or whether say give honor to those who are greater than you, wealthier than you, prettier than you, taller than you, on and on it goes, right? Be, what is it, the word that they always use? Show deference to people who are more important than you. And who's more important, we've determined, whether it's with the type of skill people have or the type of work that they do. We've created these systems of hierarchy, right? And you are 1,000% correct that many of us in these systems, even though we see that these are false systems in a sense, right? In a sense, there is no real difference between man over here, one, who is monarchy, man over here, two, who is not, except that they tell us there's a difference as far as we know today. Now, right? Oh, it's a difference because of the family they're in. They're my favorite, like Harry Potter. What does pure blood mean? What blood is it that they are tracking to call pure? And why doesn't it include every other nation on the earth? Why was it just theirs? Why did it just come from this group of people or these families? Why are they the ones that get to dictate what the world is doing? I don't know if any of you are interested or watching what is going on in the conference at Davos. In the past, this used to be somewhat of an exclusive and kind of operation. They would meet in Davos. Of course, it was usually a forum of the world's richest people and the most influential businesses that would meet in Davos. And it was kind of closed in and people didn't know what was going on. And now we're getting to a place in the world where it's being televised. Speeches are being televised and they have open forum. But the Davos concept, the monarchy concept, and any type of hierarchy is an explanation of what Joyce Anderson just mentioned. It is an explanation that citizen is just not aware that he is promoting, encouraging, in fact, the iron fist that is coming down upon him to crush him. He can't help but support this iron fist world to be crushing him. It is amazing. Now you have a champion, Prince Harry, who is a champion against an institution that is huge, vast, mass media. Do you know how big that is? Mass media, worldwide. And he has knocked on the door of this institution and said, what you are doing is wrong. And I believe we, the people, should make you stop. And you have people that actually feel he is in the wrong and are actually on television and at their talk shows. And of course, they're employed by mass media. So what else can they say? And they have to say, oh, he shouldn't do this. Why doesn't he just let it go? Or my favorite sentence of all time, people, why doesn't he just move on? Write that down. Why doesn't he just move on? They always want someone to move on. We do you dirty. We do you dirty. We grind you down. We tear up your life. We ruin your method of actually moving forward in this world. We do everything we can to devastate and terrorize you. But hey, why don't you just move on? Right? You see, the world, this is the thing, the UK, the world, they're not ready for a champion. The world is mean and harsh on people who are trying to help it. That's just one of those weird things about the world we live in. So, right? So Prince Harry and Prince Meghan, after all of this battling in the courts, he still was able to make it on back over here and be at the premiere at Sundance of one of their Netflix specials. It's called Cookie Queens. And yes, it's about what I used to be a den mother of, the Girl Scouts. And when it's time for cookie sales, the Girl Scouts do not mess around. Okay? The Girl Scouts could move some merchandise. And of course, it makes sense that Meghan would have that wonderful support for the Girl Scouts, having been a Girl Scout. I can imagine much of her behavior and her temperament definitely would fit the Girl Scout mottos because they kept those young ladies working. So it was lovely to see them, even while they're being, pummeled. Of course, I love to use the UK words. They're being all the time pictured in the UK tabloid media. They're being discussed on every channel in the UK. Meanwhile, they're back over here snapping photos and basically going to movies. And I thought, now that's great. That's what they're supposed to do. And I am so glad they did it. Right? Meanwhile, right, you had the family of the Beckhams, right, who came in there and did all of their groveling, distanced themselves from Harry, to maintain their tightness with the monarchy, being invited to state dinners, giving themselves as much of a come up as possible, only to have their son decide, you know what, I'm going to walk away like Harry. Yeah, because you people are not who you say you are. And the Beckhams fit right into the royal family. It looks like their behavior is very much the same. Who knows what they were doing or how they were treating their children? I have no idea. But it appears that one of the fellas, one of the children, he married someone and he said, okay, look, just like Meghan, he married someone that they do not need your money and they don't need your impression. He can make it on his own. And so he said, look, I am out. But that's, the Beckham, they live in they're living the monarchy way. So that's what was happening in their family. And of course, what do they say? Turnabout is fair play. Sometimes what you think you are doing, meddling in someone else's lives, which is what the accusation was of why the Beckhams and the Sussexes were not super, super tight. Because, like Harry explained to the court, those aren't my friends, right? He doesn't just have confidences with anybody. He doesn't keep confidence with just anybody. Even though the Beckhams are very popular, very famous, he may not have known the Beckhams like the media would portray they know each other, like they were buddies. He probably did not know them like that. So the distancing was probably natural because it didn't exist, right? So again, Harry and Meghan, they are global. They stay global. And we need him to keep fit and stay healthy. And then it's important to understand the type of people that he also would keep himself around and spend time with are people that have a similar mentality. We had a statement, of course, like I said before, talking about Davos. We had a we had the United States representative of the presidency for now make a comment to all of these people who are at Davos from every nation in the world. And the statement was that they were of no use to the United States of America. I just want to say today, right now, please make sure that if you are from any other country than the U.S., that you understand that I respect and honor and have enjoyed all of my travels and trips everywhere in this world, and that I think people of the entire world, all over this planet, have been wonderful, supportive, valuable, and in most cases, just lovely. So for someone from the U.S. to make a comment worldwide that people haven't done anything in support of the U.S., even Prince Harry had to think back to his days in the army and serve in Afghanistan. And FYI, I too spent time in Afghanistan. That I thought it was wonderful that he made, even while he was in court, even while he was heading back home to go to the movies, even with all of that happening, he still had time to respond to the fact that the UK and Europe was accused of being useless as a supportive NATO force, which that is atrocious to say. Even if you really believe it, it's atrocious to say. But that's how people speak nowadays who have had no training in how to behave. They simply do not understand community and behavior. Why in a community we have certain behavior. But basically, Prince Harry, he made this statement. I thought it was lovely. And he stated that he served there. He made good friends. And that the United Kingdom had actually had about 400 and some servicemen in various places in Afghanistan. And he reminded people, these people lost family members to the war in Afghanistan. Many people got hurt, and like what Invictus is letting you know, people got hurt there and people were wounded there. Thus, Invictus, right? And he was just, I'm sure, he just probably couldn't believe that someone would make a statement as atrocious and insulting as that. But I love the fact that he was able to step out and give his point of view and his thoughts on it. Now, here's a little tidbit. This is something I'm going to throw out. Did you notice that the monarchy didn't make a statement discouraging being put down like that? Again, Prince Harry is their champion, right? But they're silly enough to also say they're tired of Harry and Meghan. These people on the other side, they're not going to make any balking statements. They're scared to death to peek their head up and say what is really the truth. And whenever Prince Harry comes to town, because of course he comes in and he's fierce, they're going to always run. They're going to always be unavailable. And they're going to always hide. And the interesting thing about it is no one ever really notices. So with that, folks, I want you to know I'm going to be just like that. No one notices. They can run. It doesn't matter. No one notices or cares. Wouldn't you agree? So it's just like pitiful. Okay, so what does that mean? Whew! You guys, you had me just going and going and going and going. What this means is I give you a little twinkle, and I know I've said this before. I always let you preface. I always like to have you listen to me babble about a Bible verse or something that might mean something to me, something that might cause me a thought process, and I always encourage you to enjoy it if you do. But please do not feel like I'm trying to recruit you to some sort of cult action. Before I do that, real quick, Keen for Concept, I see you're saying howdy do to everyone. All right, let's say that. And once again, let's see who's here. Joyce Anderson, Harry and Meghan, they are a force. Yes, yes. And a force right now, a force for good. Yes. And I hope they stay that way. So I encourage them to be that and be that forever. So as I am getting ready to wrap up, listen, whenever Bible verses kind of come to my mind, it's so funny. Lately, and I know I probably have repeated these, but lately there are just some that are kind of compounding in thought. It's like that thought keeps coming to mind. And when I think of Harry, Prince Harry, I'm going to tell you that I visualize the idea of the chivalry and the knighthood, the princes of the past. You know, Moses in the Bible, who was born and lived as a prince, and you know these guys were warriors and they were champions at what they did. They were looking out for people who had difficulties, and they seemed to be loving and tender and caring, which these qualities are never highlighted by those in charge. An organization like the monarchy, they actually dislike compassion. They do not want you to show empathy. Actually, they want you to be devoid of it. In other words, not capable of empathy. It reminded me of a scene where this young guy from China was working and living in, I think, the Congo of Africa. It was an area where they were doing, I'm going to say either maybe lithium mining or gold mining, something of that nature. And he was exploiting the children there by having them sing and dance and things like that, but putting the most horrific captions underneath these children singing and dancing. And that had become like a huge popular channel in China for people to laugh at and deride and put down the poverty perhaps that they saw in these videos, or how the children would try to do dance and sing or whatever. And he was just using it in an exploitive way. And he was coaching another coworker on, don't feel sorry for these people. Don't feel sorry for them. Make sure you don't do that. Just basically teaching a lack of empathy. Now, of course, you can caution yourself by keeping your wits about you and not being taken advantage of. But he was just painting the whole area and everyone with that blanket swath of, don't feel sorry for these people. Don't look at them and feel bad. There's no reason to feel bad for them. They're nothing. And the monarchy is an institution that teaches the same. Show no mercy, show no compassion. Mercy and compassion, although that's weakness, right? The United States has leadership that feels the same way, right? Show no mercy. No matter what happens, just act like a monarch. Say you're supposed to do it. Don't apologize. You're never wrong. How can you be wrong? You're a god, right? So that is how people are operating today. And somehow you have to be careful, because that is the mindset of these entities. So what that brings me to thinking about a lot, guys, in the Bible verse, Ephesians 6:10 through 18. So I'll read a little bit of it. I hope you can see it on your screen. What it's talking about, like I said, when I visualize the knights and the princes of old and the wars and the battles that they were fighting. And so there is a description of what you need to do to be a warrior for God. In other words, not everybody is cut out for this. And if you're cut out for it, you also have to get ready. Because you will hear a lot of people complain about things that they see going on in the world. They get mad. But you know what? The Bible has some hints, I would say. They have a path. They have the Bible can sometimes give you a bit of insight as to, if you really are a warrior and you feel this way, here is something you may need to know. So verse 10, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you might be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. So what is he saying first? Be strong. Pay attention. Pray. Pray about the strength. And then he's saying, ready, get dressed, put on the armor. And then, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. Please underline that. Okay? Underline that. That's a hint. Against spiritual wickedness in high places. Underline that. There's a hint. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Once again, prepare. Be ready if you're going to fight. Right? Warriors got to get dressed. So stand therefore, having your loins gird. That means, they put this cover around your loins, gird about truth. And having on the breastplate of righteousness. You need a chest plate. And your feet should be shod, covered, with the preparation of the gospel of peace. That means you better know the word. Whatever word that is that you use, you better know it. And above all, you take on the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. Right? Shield maiden. You might need to be out there, and those arrows will be coming your way. Be ready. And take the helmet of salvation, and then pick up the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. Right? And finally, praying always with prayer, to be covered in the Spirit, and watching, always watching, and staying with perseverance and supplication for all saints. That means to honor all of those who have been dealing in the same foolishness that you have. Perseverance. That means you're going to have to stick to it. It's not going to wrap up quickly. This is not a television show. It will not be over in 30 minutes. Okay? So, with that being put out there, folks, I hope you enjoyed at least some of the chat. Sorry I kept you too long if I did. And if you missed something, you better get up and get out. And in my case, I got to shovel the snow. Oh, I got to shovel snow. But look, the rest of you, stay warm and keep at it. And hopefully, we will get back in here as soon as possible. Enjoy. Thank you for being here.